Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into a history that's incredibly complex, often painful, but absolutely fundamental to understanding America. We're talking about the story of Chinese Americans.
That's right. And we're using a specific framework from our sources, particularly this idea of strangers in the land, to structure this journey.
It structures it in a really compelling way, doesn't it? It's a story that's just filled with struggle, yes, but also unbelievable resilience and this constant ongoing search for belonging.
Exactly. And that structure is key because it breaks down almost 2 centuries into these 5 distinct eras, each with its own, emotional weight. Our goal today isn't just listing dates and events. We want to distill those big shifts, the real agony of being systematically excluded, but also the triumphs, the often quiet, multi-generational wins that really define this community's experience.
So we're covering a lot of ground from the gold rush fields in the mid-1800s.
Right up to today, yeah.
And what I think is so useful about looking at it this way, through this lens, is how the sources make it personal. It's not just abstract history. It's built around these unforgettable individual stories. People whose everyday lives show these huge systemic changes in action. We're kind of aiming to give you the shortcut to feeling what it was like in each of these 5 periods.
Precisely. It's about understanding how identity itself transformed, how a whole group of people went from being, initially welcomed, maybe just for their labor.
Right, just for their economic use.
To being targeted, legally defined as, quote, unassimilable aliens by federal law. Understanding that negotiation, that constant push and pull over nearly 175 years, means we have to dive into the laws, the culture, and the personal fights they faced every single day.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We have to start at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
The 1840s, California gold rush. It created this almost like magnetic pull.
Mythic, almost.
Thousands of young men, mostly from specific areas in southern China, right? The Pearl River Delta, Taishan region. Impoverished villages. Right. They weren't just looking for a job. They were chasing, a dream, destiny, maybe.
And they had a name for it, Gumsan, Gold Mountain. That phrase just perfectly captures that initial feeling, that sense of pure, life-changing opportunity. These young men arrived ready to work hard, and they often brought really sophisticated skills, mining techniques, organizational structures from back home, which were actually super effective in the early days.
So for a little while, they were actually welcomed.
For a brief period, yes. But it was mostly because they filled a labor need. Mining, building things, laundry starting up, there was a vacuum.
But as you said, that welcome was purely, transactional. What struck me in the sources was just how fast that flipped.
Oh, incredibly fast.
As soon as that easy surface gold started disappearing, boom, the perception just reverses. Violently, even. Competition turns into resentment, then conflict.
And that conflict was immediately grabbed onto and weaponized. That's the crucial part. Politicians, local newspapers, they saw an opportunity.
How so?
They realized blaming the Chinese immigrants for the economic downturn, for the scarcity, was, frankly, a political winner. It worked. So suddenly these hardworking laborers were recast as this single foreign threat, the unassimilable aliens.
Ah, that phrase again.
Yeah, and that whole rhetorical shift, that deliberate painting of them as fundamentally other, it paved the way for federal action. The argument became, these people threaten the very core of American society.
Was it just about the economy, though? Or did the sources suggest there were, deeper things going on, pre-existing anxieties, maybe?
Oh, absolutely layered. Economics was the spark, the immediate trigger, definitely. But the sources really emphasized these underlying cultural anxieties. About race, about foreignness.
Because they looked different, spoke differently.
Exactly. Distinct dress, language, customs. They became the perfect symbol of the other, especially in the West, which was changing so rapidly itself. And you saw this reflected in local laws long before the Federal Act. Taxes targeting only Chinese miners, things like that, popping up all through the 1860s, 1870s, trying to legislate them away.
But the big one, the real turning point, was 1882.
Yeah. The Chinese Exclusion Act.
We really need to pause here and underscore this, the gravity of this act. It wasn't just some minor policy tweak.
No, it was absolutely monumental, and not just for Chinese Americans, but for the entire history of the U.S. This was the first major American immigration law that was explicitly based on race and national origin.
Not quotas, but exclusion.
Outright exclusion, yeah. And the sources point out, this wasn't sudden. It built up over 2 decades. Political pressure growing, calls for state bans first, and then finally this federal law. Initially, it banned all Chinese laborers from immigrating for 10 years.
And crucially, it wasn't just about stopping new people. It hit the people already here just as hard, didn't it?
Devastatingly so. It simultaneously stripped those already present of fundamental rights. It explicitly barred Chinese immigrants already in the U.S. from ever